All right, Dan. So
Very
I hope
cool.
you enjoyed Hades. I think it'd be dope if
Yeah.
you picked this up a little bit. It's on
Oh
PC
my god.
too. It's on PC. So
Yeah.
if you were to
Yeah,
get
this is
into it,
great.
that'd be awesome.
I love
Um,
seeing this game.
but let's get to the actual interview portion of all this, if you don't mind.
Yeah. The
All
cool
right.
part.
Yeah. Well, the part the folklorists love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Once again, we're here with Daniel Peretti, Memorial University Newfoundland. And thank you very much to our Folkwise interview sleuths who helped put this interview together. Just remember, when the guest chuckles, don't thank me, thank the sleuths. So let's get into this interview real quick. On your website, you have the following: that you got into folklore to understand the ways that narrative, ritual, and festivities affect people's lives. Do you think at this point in your career you've come to an answer to that question you set off looking for?
Oh, well, some answers, right? I think that there are as many answers as there are people.
Hmm.
So I wrote down some answers to that. I can't believe you went to my website. I don't think anybody's ever done that
Oh,
before.
we've gone to so much more than your website. Again, thank the sleuths.
Really?
I
That's
love
great.
when we get moments like that because it means that the interview sleuths are like top tier doing their job.
Yeah. Oh, that
That's
is
cool.
exciting.
So what's one of the answers you've come to in your time as a folklorist?
Okay, let's see. I mean, it's really just a matter of picking one story, right? I'm going to try to give you a story that's not going to affect me too much, and that's just because 2 years ago, I was telling people in my introduction to folklore class about this, and I just got all choked up, like I couldn't even continue the lecture. It was insane. Research I did in 2009, 2010 was affecting me profoundly in 2019 in ways that I didn't understand. So I'm going to keep it calm. But if that happens, it was unexpected. So I'm talking about Superman here, right? So I wrote
Mm-hmm.
this book, Superman Myth and Folklore, which is it was really about the Superman celebration in Southern Illinois, right? So it's a little town called Metropolis, 6,000 people. And I went there after finding out about it from a documentary I watched called Confessions of the Superhero. And that's about all the costumers in front of Grauman's Chinese Theater in Hollywood who will pose with you for a photo for a
Yeah.
couple of bucks. I thought it was an interesting documentary. I haven't written about that one that much, but one of the guys, the Superman, goes to Metropolis and gets married under the big statue, and so I went there to see if there was enough material for a book, and there was, I thought. And what I learned, I met the people who went there, and what I found is that focalized on a narrative, the Superman narrative, and there's of course many branches of this, but it doesn't matter that there are all these different branches because it's an inclusive community. They want you there if you want to be there, and if you don't, they're like, okay, whatever, that's fine. These are the greatest people I've met in my life in some ways, and so what I learned is that they go there to find a community, and they do it to make a virtual community actual for one weekend every year. So you get like 50,000 people, and you get every stratum of fandom, from like people who are really casual to people whose lives depend on Superman stories in one way or another, who are only alive in some ways because of Superman stories.
Yeah.
There are comic book pages that prevent people from committing suicide, and so like I said, there's a lot of these little stories that I talked to, and what happened was when you ask people why they like Superman, they tell you their life story,
Mm.
and it's all of that stuff. It's issues with their father. It's physical problems that they had where they lost the ability to communicate with people in person because of deafness or something like that, and so they find these online communities, and then they go and meet these people whom they've never met in real life, but they're more accepting. And they, like one woman I met, uh, the people she met in Superman fandoms learned sign language so that they could talk to her, and her own family never did that. So it's like that's the stuff that I was not expecting to find, but that became to me, the most important part of it. This stuff gets dismissed, right? Comic books are becoming more and more popular, ideally, not in practice in a lot of cases with superheroes. Certain comic books are more, they sell. I read that the Dogman comics were the most popular book in the United States for like a month once. It's amazing the way these things are working out. But despite that, people are not really seeing them for what. Well, I'm not phrasing this right. When you look at a comic book, you're not going to see that story. You're never going to expect that someone is going to find that kind of community. And so that's what I wanted to do by studying these sorts of things was to find what kinds of communities coalesce around them. I really didn't expect the sorts of things that I encountered. And I met people who were there, with their grandkids. I met people who came just to take pictures of costumers with a little derisive quality to it. They were going to take these back to their hometown and show the pictures to their coworkers. And, they weren't quiet about it, and nobody minded. Like, all right, if that's what you're here for, go ahead. Because that's just what they're doing. So that's, when I talk about the union of these sorts of things, I'm looking at material culture in the form of costuming and folk art. I'm looking at the festival as sort of the union of all the different genres of folklore. And to me, I find the narratives to be most interesting, just because that's my personality. That's what I gravitate toward in the end. I could keep talking about that, but I feel like I'm not going to make any better points than that. So
Dan, you've answered 3 of my questions.
Yeah, no.
Oh my God, amazing answer.
So, wow, and
Oh, thanks.
I also have noticed. I mean, there's so many different points to go off on that, but at least on your last point about festival, like I've noticed a lot of folklorists or people who study folklore end up doing a lot of festival because it's a coalescence of all of these different aspects of everyday life and a big celebration of that. And so I think it's
that's why I study festivals.
And so
it
makes sense that, like, of course, when I thought, learning about Superman and myth, like obviously we go to narrative, but also fandom and pop culture and festival and a costume and so much is there. Obviously, that's so cool.
Yeah, I wanted to do something happy too.
I laugh only because, like, try being an academic and let it still be happy.
Yeah,
but Superman is so. I mean, that's so
but
uplifting, though.
Yeah, you didn't go to the Punisher festival. You went to
Superman. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, right, the Punisher stuff. Yeah, well, that one's more depressing. I mean, in every sense. Like someone is. I actually was asked to write a response to a Punisher essay about a year ago for what's that journal? It's a journal
for an academic, a leading academic publication.
Yeah. And it was, and so I did a little research. Like I only had to write 1,000 words or something.
Yeah.
But what I found was almost uniformly depressing. It's all about, like, Disney should finally enforce their trademark on the Punisher symbol because all these police officers are using it as part of, beating up protesters who are just standing in a line saying, hey, don't beat up people who aren't trying to kill you, stuff like that. So that stuff, it gets depressing really fast. I mean, the way these things end up playing out. And Superman could have gotten depressing. There's a lot to see with a critical eye there.
Yeah.
But I chose not to do that. There's a lot of people who aren't fans in the aggressive, what's the point of Superman? He's boring sort of thing. I talked to some of those folks, but I wanted to celebrate culture. There's plenty of room for that. The other perspective, but
you're getting lots of love in the chat, by the way.
Oh yeah, the chat loves you.
People are loving your Superman discussion. It's great.
That's cool. Oh, that's nice to hear.
So let's move on from that a little bit. What is your favorite modern day reimagining of Prometheus?
Oh wow! So that was my PhD thesis, and I haven't quite gone back to it since then.
Fair.
Almost immediately, I jumped right into this Superman project within a month.
Yeah.
In part because I wanted to prove to myself that I could do a fieldwork based project,
Mm.
which Prometheus didn't. Like, there's no Prometheus festival, right? Um, I read a lot of very, very bad literature for that project. Um, the one
What?
that sticks out to me was Jasper Ford, which I thought was kind of interesting. At the time, like right when I was doing this project, his book, The Big Over Easy, came out. This is a Welsh writer who is completely postmodern in his approach to myth and fairy tale and nursery rhyme and detective novels. He got famous for writing books about. Well, his first one was called The Air Affair, which I haven't read, and there are all these books remixing all kinds of popular literature. So his book, The Big Over Easy, was all about nursery rhyme characters, and then all of a sudden the Greek gods just show up in the middle of it. So he was great. I corresponded with him over email for a little while, just to get some material for my thesis, and that one was pretty interesting. Mostly because it was all the Humpty Dumpty jokes. I thought Humpty Dumpty is murdered at the beginning of the book, and the whole plot is solving his murder.
Ah.
Interesting.
It's good stuff. I thought. I never read the sequels because I just couldn't. It came out after I was done, so I just couldn't make myself go back to that yet. I kind of overloaded on all that stuff at the time. Maybe the best was Roger Zelazny's short story "Love is an Imaginary Number," and that one is like a lot of fantasy fiction that was being written in the last half of the 20th century, kind of looking at a universal underpinning to the myths, right? So Prometheus is also Loki. Prometheus is also any giant in the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. I thought that might have been my favorite piece of literature that I read. It's a nice little short story in a collection called "The Doors of Her Face, the Lamps of Her Mouth."
Ooh.
Zelazny's an old school science fiction writer, basically,
Yeah.
whose work I don't know very well, but that was a pretty good collection.
Another question for you about the kind of your research topics. Santa Claus and Krampus, are they enemies or are they on the same side?
Well, nowadays they're on the same side. It seems like they were sort of working toward a common goal, I suppose. Even if they had different methods, I suppose.
Yeah. So so explain that. What's their common goal, but how do their methods differ?
Well, the Krampus actually is less about Santa Claus than it is about Saint Nicholas. So when you see the old iconography with those two together, it's the full-on bishop's hat,
Mm-hmm.
the big cross on it. He's carrying the book and the three gold sacks and everything like that. And honestly, I haven't dug into the Krampus stuff, because again, I'm really focused on trying to get a fieldwork project going. I've hit a lot of roadblocks even before COVID. So my fieldwork was going to be conducted in Sleepy Hollow, New York, which has nothing, like, they don't do anything with the Krampus. I did some work on the Jersey Devil Festival in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and they also do a Krampus festival, which they wanted me to come back for. So I went in May of 2019 and couldn't make it back for December for their Krampus festival I think they do it on the 7th or 6th, right? St. Nicholas Day.
Yeah.
So I'm a little out of my territory with the Krampus. But Santa, like, if we're talking about like heavy metal Santa Claus, there's the book Klaus by Grant Morrison and an artist named Dan Mora, where Santa's got a sword and he slays the Krampus in order to make the world safe for all the children. So the common goal is to get your children to behave properly.
Yeah.
So you can promise them gifts to get to that goal, or you can say, if he's gonna put you in a bag and drag you through a river until you drown and beat you with a stick and stuff like that. There's some images with the Krampus in St. Nicholas's sack. So like they're going together to get this work done. I find that stuff really, really interesting. But I know that there are scholars out there, folklorists out there, who know a lot more about it than I do. Yeah.
Wow. Just so you know, I'm stacking a couple different questions for you because a bunch of
Daisy.
people are asking questions in the chat, and
I was
it's
about
pretty
to
cool.
say, Daisy, can I do 2 fun questions? You ask some chat questions, then I'll prepare for one final question that leads us into our activity. Does that work?
That sounds great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Dan, here's some fun questions if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay. What do tail type number ATU 1137, the Ogre Blinded, what does that have in common with the chapter Mount Doom from Return of the King?
Oh, geez, you're going way back. I think that was the first article I ever got published. I can't remember what that. Okay, so I was doing my qualifying exams for the PhD, and I was reading all these things, and I needed a way to focalize all the knowledge, so I wrote that article.
Oh, cool.
It
Good
took
idea.
a couple of days. And of course, a year later, after I was done, I revised it and sent it off to a journal. And I don't remember exactly what prompted it anymore. But basically, it was just this little thing where I thought, hey, what if Polyphemus is Sauron from the Lord of the Rings? Or maybe reverse that. What if Sauron is sort of a Polyphemus story?
Yeah.
And I started digging into the books that Tolkien read by going through his letters, and I found some versions of 1137, which is Odysseus blinding Polyphemus in the cave and everything. And I'm a little bit obsessed with the Arabian Nights, and that's one of Sinbad. I think it's his 3rd voyage. They get trapped on this island and they got to blind a giant ogre. So I read. Someone had given me it's one of the History of Middle Earth volumes, and it's the one where they go to Mount, like that part where it's like all of Tolkien's notes. And I found like there's a version that he wrote where one of the ring wraiths traps Frodo and Sam in the volcano, and they got to fight that to get out. And I thought this is kind of similar, so I just kind of went through the oral tradition that's happened since then. There were Scottish versions that Tolkien had read. Tales from the West Highland by James MacDonald, I think. This is like 2006.
If you had to make up a
Scottish
Scottish guy, James MacDonald is a good guess.
I think it's MacDonald for sure. It's a good collection. It's Scottish folk tales, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just wrote that up. As I was comparing tale types, I wanted to understand what I could do with that index, and so it turned out to be a study of creativity. The influences led him to a point where the story would seem like it made the most sense to go that way, and it's got a magic ring in it in the Scottish version, which calls out to the owner once. I think it's Cuchulainn? Man, wow, going way back for this stuff. We'll blame my lack of memory on COVID. I'll say that's been one of my problems, is that I can't remember anything anymore.
When I had to sub in and was getting interview questions, they asked me about like stuff I did in high school. So yeah, the sleuths are going deep on this, so no worries.
Here's
awesome.
Here's another fun one for you. What is the most weirdest or most memorable or most unusual thing you ever saw while you were, and I think I have your former title right, while you were audiovisual technician in Ballantine Hall?
Well, I did that job for 18 years.
Oh my god.
Oh god, what a crazy time that was. That one, I started doing it. I ran 16 millimeter projectors for people because I'd studied film as an undergrad. So that's one of the things they wanted me to do. I was wheeling slide projectors into classrooms, and then it evolved into installed technology, projectors in the ceiling, and literally at the end, all I was doing was turning computers off and then turning them back on so that they would work for people. I had no skills that I
Hey,
didn't pick up doing that. Like it was weird to see that transition
I
from,
will I will say this. I will say this. One time you did change a projector bulb for me while I was teaching.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I would see people, I would go into classrooms, and the weirdest thing that ever happened to me in that one was, just bizarre coincidence. I was checking references for something I was writing, and I looked up, a book called The Myth of the Superhero by Marco Arnaudo.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, when I looked it up, his photo came up. And so I was like, oh, there's that guy. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know why it showed up on this bibliography page. So I just had to get the year right, I think, for a final pass on my manuscript for the press. And I finished that, and I got a call saying, "Can you go over to, well, Dom, you'll know Jordan Hall, like
Yep.
right across from the office." And I walked over there because something was wrong, and I walked in the room, and there he was, saying, "Hey, can you fix this computer problem?" It was just so bizarre. Like I'd never met the guy. I didn't know he was at IU. So that was weird. And it was like, I didn't know what to do. Like, do I tell him that I just saw his picture on the internet?
Oh my
That
god.
was weird. Weird things used to happen. Like, we had an office in the main building, the main classroom building at IU. So like 50,000 people were walking through a day, right? Professors, weird kids who got lost, and just anybody. And one time a guy came running into our office. We're right in the center of the building, and he flattened himself in this little ball down by the wall. And he said, "There's someone out there I don't want to see. Can you guys hide me for a minute?" And we all just stared at him like, I don't know how to respond.
Oh my
Like, he
god.
might be in danger. He might just be trying to avoid an awkward conversation. And so we just stared at him. And then like 30 seconds went by. He got up and left.
Oh my
So
god.
weird.
Explain or anything? You didn't
No,
explain.
no,
You
just
like
left.
And yeah, you never learned who it was.
No.
I would have at least expected kind of an explanation after, but I
We
guess you
were
didn't do good enough of a job covering for him.
This
I
is
don't
the
know.
funniest answer we've ever gotten.
that job. It started out, there were 15 employees,
Mhm.
going all over campus, and then by the end, it was literally just me sitting in a classroom with 20 laptops and 10 projectors and things like that. It was a job. It paid the bills for a while. I'm very grateful to have had it, and just weird things would happen sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Daisy, because the chat is absolutely popping
Oh my
off,
god.
can you ask
Yeah.
Dan some of the chat's questions?
Yeah, some of them are really good. So new guy asked a couple questions early on. Have you read Drew Hayes' novel for the series Superpowerids? And if so, what's your take on it? If you have no
Oh
take,
no,
that's fine.
I haven't even heard of that one.
Okay. uh, new guy also said bad Prometheus line. Dan, can you talk about the creation myth with regards to Prometheus? Just a little
Oh
bit
yeah,
about the
okay.
creation myth and Prometheus.
So the Theogony, right, which is one of Hesiod's many poems, is essentially a hymn to Zeus,
Mm-hmm.
and that one gives us a Prometheus who's essentially a villain, because he tricked Zeus, and Hesiod wasn't very happy about that. So he twists it so that Zeus knew he was being tricked. Zeus isn't a creator so much as he is an organizer. He has sex with everybody, and that's how he organizes the cosmos once he's in power. And he doesn't create humanity. He doesn't create the world. These things precede him. He's mostly the god of the polis, right? So he's the god of people's organized lives. And about halfway through the poem, I want to say, Prometheus shows up. He's of the same generation as Zeus, but he's got different parents, right? So they're not at war. He didn't fight with the Titans when Zeus overthrew them. He sort of helped Zeus out. And then they're organizing the sacrificial lots. And Zeus is supposed to pick one. So Prometheus divides up the ox into a pile that looks really great, but is actually just worthless. And then a pile that looks awful, but has all the stuff that people need. Because Prometheus is on the side of humanity. Actually, sorry, men. He's on the side of men in this. And Zeus picks the wrong one. He picks the one that looks great, but is useless to him. And then so Hesiod doesn't like that, so he rationalizes and said, Zeus knew it. Zeus knew what he was doing. He picked the wrong one on purpose. He wanted to punish men, and he wanted them to have that. So that's Prometheus's role. So Zeus withholds fire as a result of this, which is weird because they can't sacrifice the stuff that they're supposed to. That's what he gets out of it, is that men will burn, and the smoke will rise up to Mount Olympus, and that becomes the nectar and ambrosia that they live on. So he withholds fire from them. Prometheus steals it, gives it to the men. Zeus tells everybody, okay, we got to punish the men, so let's give them Pandora. And he punishes Prometheus by chaining him to a rock in the Caucasus Mountains and sending an eagle to gouge out his liver every day. So that's his role. In creation, Prometheus' son Deucalion is the one who survives the flood that Zeus unleashes as one of his many schemes to kill everybody. He doesn't like the population getting too big. So that's what the Trojan War is about. He wants to kill all the heroes, all the demigods who have been around, so he orchestrates the Trojan War to do that. So that's the role that Prometheus plays in everything. That's Hesiod. By Aeschylus, 300 years later, Prometheus is a culture hero. So not only does he bring fire to people, but everything that fire metaphorically represents, which is navigation, art, all the sciences, all the good stuff in life comes from Prometheus. And the punishment doesn't end. Right? Eventually, Zeus will let him go for different reasons, glorifying his son Heracles, or because Prometheus eventually tells him which woman not to have sex with, because the result of that union will be his son who will overthrow him. So the Prometheus myths are all about Zeus and people, right there.
Surely You Can't Be in the chat is like popping off right now, and it's just very, very much quoting and saying, "You betrayed me, but it's all part of the plan anyway." As part of part of that, and that it reminds him of Judas.
Can I actually weigh in on that?
Yeah.
I was gonna say that reminds me of like doomsday cults, like that book When Prophecy Fails. I think that's just like that's just like a thing about humanity, of like not wanting to be owned so bad that you will say this was part of the plan the whole time, that I think must have been there in Bronze Age Greece to begin with.
Cognitive dissonance,
cognitive dissonance.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's gotta be weird. Hesiod is a complicated figure. He gets a lot of criticism. My professor, my advisor Greg Schremp, worked really hard to redeem him when we taught mythology. I was as his assistant. We used a specific translation of that of the Theogony, and he did a lot of work to show that Hesiod wasn't as maybe misogynistic as people like to read him to be. He was like that as a scholar. He liked to find really great stuff in otherwise potentially problematic research, which I admire a lot. I tend to be overly critical.
I think the thing Greg Schremp does very well is take things that people like. There's been one established take on for 200 years, and then finds a new. Yeah,
against all odds.
There's been a lot of quick pop culture references and recommendations.
List all of the recommendations people have for you.
I'm like, all right, what do you think of the new Prometheus movie, Pro? Yay, nay, have you seen it?
The new Prometheus movie?
This
is not the movie from 2012?
It's not the new, sorry, it's not the new one. It's New Guy Neighbor said it. So I'm getting it mixed up. But I think it's Pro, the 2012 one.
So what, Ridley Scott? Yeah.
First Prometheus, yeah.
What a gorgeous movie. Just absolutely loved all of the visuals, and what a horrible script. It was so disappointing.
Oh.
Um, yeah, I mean, Ridley Scott is great visually. This was Damon Lindelof writing it, and before, I think it was before he really got his act together as a writer. He's done much better stuff, and that one, you know, I'd done a lot of research into the whole Chariots of the Gods thing. It's very much that space Jesus.
Oh yeah.
I don't mind it so much. I thought it was watchable. It's got some really great scenes, and it falls into a lot of the wrong traps. And the sequel, Alien Covenant, I don't remember. I know I watched it, but I remember Prometheus much more clearly. Yeah, yeah. You know, those are all right. I didn't have anything to say about it yet. I do plan to go back to my dissertation and turn it into a book. At some point, I have a 5-book plan about American mythology. But the Superman thing turned out to be the first one, and then the Prometheus would be the second one. Something native born, I guess, homegrown on American soil, plus something imported, and then there's the whole American Revolution thing. And anyway, that's a whole different thing. So I think I will eventually have something to say about it, but I don't now. And that's how I work. I often don't know what I have to say until I'm writing it, and even afterwards. Sometimes I got to go back and figure out what I was trying to say, which is not the best way to work. But
I know that feeling.
yeah.
Some other questions or thoughts that are popping up. Your thoughts on the Claus movie on Netflix, if you've seen that. It's Surely You Can't Be one of their favorites.
Is that the animated thing?
I can't say I know, but
I started it, but I didn't get through it. I did get through the Christmas Chronicle with Kurt Russell. I haven't seen the animated one. I've seen things about it, but I just, you know, I've had to put a lot of that research on hold.
Yeah. Schmidt J. Whisk in the chat also says, I'm curious about Dan's thoughts about Superman Red Sun.
Ooh, I read that. It's tough because the part about that one that everybody remembers was given to the author by a completely different author, right? So everybody remembers the ending, where it goes far into the future, and you discover that, I'm going to spoil this, I suppose. You discover that Superman is actually just a human being from the far future who's been sent back in time, and he's a descendant of Lex Luthor. And I read that knowing that came from a different writer when Mark Millar, who wrote Red Sun, didn't know how to end it. And so it's hard. I found most of the story just kind of like, this is fine. And the only part I've ever heard anyone ever talk about is the ending, which is an ending that Jerry Siegel had that in mind as Superman's origin back in 1937.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting too. Jerry Siegel wasn't like a great writer, but he was a great idea guy. He's just coming up with just throwing everything at the wall, trying to get stuff to stick. He was, if you don't know, he was the writer part of the team that created Superman. So he worked with Joe Shuster back in the 1930s. And yeah, that's what I think about Red Sun. I've only read it once because I didn't find myself going back to it nobody else talked about it. When I wrote my book on Superman, I read as much as possible, and then I went back to all the things the people I interviewed talked about, and tried to work those in.
Yeah.
That's as far as I got with comics and that. I did write a second book about Superman comics that's in peer review somewhere.
Red Sun just got a movie like last year, 2 years ago.
Yeah, one of those DC animated things that they've been churning out. I hear those are pretty good.
I hear those are pretty good. My roommate, I believe, my roommate was greatly moved by Apocalypse War.
Oh yeah. Huh. That's great.
The person who asked the question in the chat says, "Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I was talking about this comic just the other day with my partner." Also, we
I
got
like
our first.
oh, I was
We
gonna
got
say
our.
my favorite bit from
Oh, good.
Red Sun is Batman is like a Soviet SR who's like
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
that's a cool little thing they did.
Did they do the? He's like his
He's got like
cowl
the
has like
yeah, he's
the.
got the
Yeah,
Ushanka built into his cowl.
yeah.
Yeah, he's like throwing
That was
Molotov
great.
cocktails. Yeah,
I forgot about Batman in there.
Batmankov. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, Daisy.
that's right. That was a pretty good
No,
part too. Yeah.
that's okay. I'm just laughing because we were famous enough to get our first spam bot, which I immediately banned. Their account was created on March 15th, and they asked us if we needed to buy more followers. So
Oh,
I banned them. I've got 3 questions for you. I don't know if they're rapid fire, but they're all about Santa slash Krampus.
okay.
Are you ready for some?
Can you
Yeah.
try to rapid fire as much as possible?
I'm gonna try
Yeah.
to
Cool.
combine them.
Good idea.
So there's 2 questions kind of about this commercialization of Santa and Krampus narratives, and one
Mm,
is how does commercialization affect Santa and Krampus narratives, and the other is the connections between Santa legend and mall Santas, and I think the
Hmm.
commercialization and mall Santa maybe can be wrapped up
mhm,
in sort of a similar vein.
mhm.
So just kind of
Well,
exploring those relationships.
you gotta start with the fact that Christmas has been over commercialized since the 4th century. People have been complaining about it as long ago as that, which is basically when it started. It's amazing to me. Everything about the research into Santa Claus just like blew my mind as soon as I read it. Uh, it makes it hard to say anything. Not to respond to the questions. It makes it hard to contribute to the literature in some ways. So that's what I'm trying to do,
Hmm.
which is trying to figure out how to write an ethics proposal that allows me just like to sit near a mall Santa for an entire day and get someone to allow me to do that. I think that the commercialization is what, how to phrase it. It's never going to stop. Um, I mean, we're talking it would take an apocalypse to stop Santa Claus, and we'd have to just collectively forget.
It would take a supernatural
Yeah,
apocalyptic event for Santa
yeah.
Claus to ever go away. How often does Santa get written into apocalyptic narrative? I need to know. Where's the
Oh,
That's the true
jeez.
science fiction. The one that gets the apocalypse right.
Get Cormac McCarthy on the phone.
Yeah, right. Now, come on, dial in.
Yeah. I want to say there was a comic called The Last Christmas where like everybody at the North Pole was slaughtered by something. And I read the first issue and I never saw it again. I gotta dig that one up.
Oh wow, yeah.
This
And so Santa's like on a rampage trying to
Oh
avenge
my
everybody
gosh.
from the North Pole.
This is making
But
me think. I wonder if there's this connection between like the particular like Christmas hype associated with the 1950s and that kind of being a centralized area of like pre-apocalypse. I'm thinking with like video games such as Fallout, there's all this like, 50s imagery
Mm.
thinking about nuclear war, right?
okay.
And I wonder if there's something like 50s Christmas, which is when 40s and 50s Christmas
Uh,
as being tied up in that era, leading it. I don't know. I just need somebody to write post-apocalyptic Santa. What does he
I'm,
turn into?
I was
sounds
I
pretty
feel like
good.
also I
the
was also
imagery
gonna
is there.
Daisy. I was also gonna point out what James Dalton Bell pointed out in the chat that Rise of the Guardians is basically a
Yes.
Santa and the Easter
Oh,
Bunny and Jack
yeah.
Frost and
Yeah.
what? Uh, who's the other one?
The
The
Man in the
Sandman.
Moon.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Sandman,
Sandman
yeah.
versus versus the
Yeah.
apocalypse.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
read the books that movie was based on. I liked the name they gave to their Santa. It was Ombrick something. It was a good name.
Tooth
That's what
Fairy.
I.
Yeah. Tooth
Yeah, Tooth
Fairy.
Fairy. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Dan, I got one more question to lead you into our closing activity. You
All
ready?
right. Yeah.
All right. So, I have to ask this because of the poster behind you. Are you the only folklorist who's written a time travel movie?
I don't know. So you know about the movie?
I'm looking at it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I know other folklorists who've written novels. Brandon Barker, whom I worked with a little bit, he's written plays.
Yep.
Um, yeah. Own Worst Enemy. Um, yeah. I don't know. What do you want?
Well,
You
it
want?
is. And it is time travel, right? Own Worst Enemy is
It
time
is.
travel.
It is.
Can
It's a time travel movie because I hate time travel stories.
Oh,
Is
explain.
I wanted to that movie. That movie. It was written. I don't know how much you want to hear about this. I've never read a really good time travel story.
Okay.
And I've read a lot, and I stopped reading because I couldn't stand it. And then my wife was how much information to give you? My son was born,
Yeah.
and my wife nearly died. So I'm sitting in the hospital the next day, and I get out a laptop, and I'm writing. I was writing my dissertation, right, my PhD thesis, and I didn't have a full-time job. Everything was just kind of falling apart. So obviously, what I was going to do was write to my buddy Mike Judd, who lives out in Los Angeles. We went to school together, went to Grand Valley together, and I said, let's write a movie. And so he came back with time travel, guy invents a time machine, and it ruins his life. And I said, all right, I'm in. And we just started writing that through email over the next couple of weeks. So that's where that movie came from. was sort of a complete despair. So I wrote about this guy. I kind of came back with like most of the bare bones plot from his little tagline almost. And then it is called Own Worst Enemy, which is the worst name ever, I think. And that's my fault. I called it My Own Worst Enemy because it's about a guy who goes back in time and ruins his own life. But when he asked for a new title, I was writing the Superman book, and I'd written the whole thing, and I hated it so much. It's like I'm just going to start from scratch, and I was writing just a rough estimate was like 8,000 or 9,000 words a day. And in the middle of that, I get this email, we need a new title. And I just like didn't even respond. So then he makes the movie, releases it, gets it in film festivals. And finally I start paying attention. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I was checked out for that. I mean, that was 5 years later, after we wrote it.
Yeah.
But he shot it. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I wanted to get out there to do it. He's out there living a dream, with he's in the Directors Guild. He just directed his first television show 3 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So he's doing very well. Very exciting for him.
Well, this is the part of... Oh, sorry, continue.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, this is the part of the interview where I normally transition into doing an activity with the guest. Dan, have you this might be interesting for you after that last that last little explanation you gave us. So feel free to get as salty and passive aggressive as you need to be. But first, have you ever done a tier list before?
No.
We kind of have a tradition going around here where we make tier lists with the guest. Tier lists come from video games as a way of ranking choices. Think like fighting game characters, but they're used on the internet all the time to rank mundane things like styles of egg and breakfast cereal and favorite Avengers movie. So what our sleuths came up with, because you have written a time travel movie, is that we have prepared we've prepared an activity where we're going to have you rank the best, or rank 10 iconic time travel movies.
Ooh,
now if you say you don't like most time travel movies, I will say it goes from S tier, which is masterclass, all the way down to D.
Can I pause you for just a second?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to reshare it for us because we can't see.
Oh yeah. Thank you for always reminding us, Daisy.
Yeah, you're good. I was gonna say, Dan's like, what is the S tier?
Oh, give me a second.
You will see in a moment.
Thank you for always reminding me to do this.
That's the mod job, the teamwork.
Mod job. Can you see it now? Can you see it now?
Yeah, if you click watch stream on our Discord chat.
Yeah. All right. So we have 10 time travel movies, and I need you to rank them from S to D, from like masterclass to barely passing. If there's
Okay.
something that needs to be if there's something that needs to be like like an F, I will add F underneath if you really think it's a failure. But without further ado, the list starts with like the most the highest grossing movie of all time, Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, yeah. I just watched these. My kids wanted to watch them, so we went
Yeah.
through all the Marvel movies. So that one I've seen pretty recently, and I think it's pretty watchable. I like that they're just like, we're not even going to care. This is time travel. Don't pay attention. Don't worry about any of that. So I appreciated that about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd put it right there in the solid B range.
Solid B.
Um,
Oh,
yeah,
I can do solid B. Give me.
yeah.
There we go. There we go. And if you're not like too familiar with these movies, I assume you're at least familiar with the reputation, so you can like rank them for what they
Hmm.
did for the genre. Next, we have Time Bandits.
Yeah, I think I've seen all these. So I
Oh,
think we're
good.
right
Oh,
there.
good. Okay.
It's been a long time for Time
I
Bandits,
hope
but I
you've
would
seen them and have strong opinions.
that one I think I watched part of that in a class I took once.
Hmm.
It's paired with Back to the Future, and they were holding up Back to the Future as like a standard you have to meet in logic for time travel.
Interesting.
Time Bandits has none, of course, right? They're
Yeah.
running around pushing through walls. I remember liking that movie a lot. I'd put it up. I'd put it also in the B range because I don't remember it well enough to be more specific.
So above or
Um,
below Avengers
I'd
Endgame?
put it a little bit below Avengers.
Got it.
Uh,
Dan, let's get to
Yeah,
Back to
so
the Future,
yeah.
yeah,
kind of the big one in the popular cultural
yeah.
time travel consensus.
But yeah, Back to the Future is so interesting. I mean, it's like a perfect movie. I think that if no one had seen a movie before, but they knew like basic story conventions,
Yeah.
it's like here's what movies can do. Here's how a movie can make you feel. And yeah, there's weird things going on. It doesn't quite work logically, but man, who doesn't like that movie? I'd put it up. I'd put that one up in the S range just because just because of the way it is. I wouldn't put the sequels up there.
Sure. I didn't include them.
Yeah.
What about Looper?
Oh, I did not like that movie. I thought the time travel element wasn't that compelling.
Uh-huh.
It seemed like a gimmick movie more than anything
Sure.
else. I thought it was fine. I would put it in the C range, I think.
See?
Nothing really wrong with it. Just
Gotcha.
not. Yeah.
Well, let's get to if not that Bruce Willis time travel movie. How about 12 Monkeys?
Oh, I love 12 Monkeys. That came out when I was in film school. I mean,
Oh, wow.
my roommates and I we talked about that movie a lot. We went and saw it a couple of times at the movie theater. I was taking I think they called it a Visions of the Future, a class on science fiction
Ooh.
cinema, and we talked about that one. It was great. I think that's a really good movie. I like Terry Gilliam a lot.
So is this going S?
Yeah, I'm
Is this a
coming
high
off.
S or a low S?
No, it's lower than
Okay.
Back to the Future, I think.
Uh,
Yeah,
how about the classic 1960 The Time Machine?
I haven't seen that one. That's what I thought that was. They're kind of small on my screen.
Oh,
and
sure.
I can't say. I'm not a fan of the story. I'm not a fan of H.G. Wells. I'm not a fan of the more recent remake from like when was
20
that?
years
20 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would put that down at the bottom, just because
Ooh.
I'm not a fan of that story.
Let's go.
In general.
Oh, yo, the chat is saying rank the 2002 version instead.
Oh, I didn't care for that at all.
Still D?
Still D, yeah.
Cool. How about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
That's a formative movie in my life.
It's such a great movie.
I was like 8, 9 years old, maybe. I don't know. I saw that in the theater. My friend Kyle and I were so excited, and it just lived up to all expectations. Put that one above Back to the Future.
Wow.
I think that's
Wow.
what a. I mean, these two guys they're just the best characters ever. The sequel, I haven't seen Bill and Ted Face the Music, and I think it's on one of the streaming
I think
services
it's
that
Amazon.
I have. So I'm okay. But Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey is really fantastic too. I don't know if that's a popular opinion, but I thought that was amazing. It's a different movie.
Yeah.
It's not just the first movie repeated, and I respect that. But yeah, again, it's, whatever rules about time travel, nobody cares.
I've been thinking about like theme parks lately, and both Bill and Ted's and Back to the Future have theme park adaptations, and I kind of want to like pick your brain about like yeah, they do. It's like an immersive theater experience. I think the Back to the Future one is I'm trying to remember.
It's more of a ride.
It's more of a ride, but they have a Bill and Ted's, and that one's very much like a bunch of actors perform on stage, and they travel through time in and with the audience, and so that always and like even with other pop culture stuff like this too, like Superman, and I don't think we do enough like how do we take the pop culture into an immersive experience questions, and so I'd love to. We can continue on this, but that's a question or thought to
if
simmer
I can answer
on
that in one word, cosplay. But
I mean, well, cosplay, but like you can't cosplay a theme park ride.
No.
I mean, you can do the cosplay of the theme park ride, but I guess you can't make the theme park ride. I mean, I don't know. I guess the people who are making the theme park rides are doing the cosplay of the movie. I don't know.
I might have been on the Back to the Future ride in like 1997.
It's an old.
If it existed.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think I was on it around the same time. Yeah,
it's an older one. Yeah,
I went when I was like 8. We got 2 last ones here. First is Terminator.
Terminator? I don't know. It's fine. It's a good movie, right? I would put it like in the B range. The time travel elements, I couldn't stand in the sequels. Like I didn't. I like the first movie because it doesn't matter. Like it's sent from the future, and then that's it. We're not gonna.
Everything's already been.
Think about
it's
it
already
anymore.
been closed. Yeah.
I like that, and I remember seeing Terminator 2 when it came out, and just the commercials for it on television, like the greatest movie ever. And I saw it, and I was like, yeah, it's cool. Like that liquid guy, but none of the rest of it. Terminator 3, I stopped watching them because they started focusing on all the time travel elements.
Yeah.
And I wasn't interested in that. So I'd put it in the B range just because it's a solid movie. I mean, it's exactly what you want it to be.
Is it between Time Bandits and Looper, or where?
Yeah, I would put it in between those. Okay. Maybe if I remember Time Bandits a little better. But yeah, I mean.
And here we come to the last one, where earlier you said it's time travel, the rules don't matter. The opposite of that, Primer. Where do you put the one that is about the rules?
Yeah, that one was all right. I never felt the need to think about it or go back to it.
Okay.
I watched it and it was like, that's a movie. It's kind of clever and occasionally, but it's got nothing really for me. I would put it in the C range, right around Looper. Let's put it above Looper.
Above Looper.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, hey, we have the Daniel Peretti time travel movie tier list, leaving off Own Worst Enemy, of course. And and on a scale from Bill and Ted to The Time Machine, how thought out is your time loop? Yes, wow. Daisy.
I have 2 shit posting ones. One from my brain and one from the chat's brain. The chat asks, Hot Tub Time Machine, is that on the list anywhere?
I haven't seen it.
Probably good. And my shit posting one is, how about Click? Does that count?
No. Does that count?
Click doesn't know what time travel? Click doesn't know what movie it is.
I saw like the first 10 minutes and I thought it was just it was hilarious. The Bed Bath and Beyond joke.
Yeah.
I thought that was the funniest thing, and then there was no way the rest of the movie was going to live up to that joke.
well.
And so I turned it off.
The rest of the movie gets very sad and
the rest
of the movie is a tragedy for no reason.
Yeah.
No.
And
Why?
people are saying Planet of the Apes, which I almost put on the list, but
Oh,
that's kind of a debate as like
yeah.
if like relativity counts as time travel, like not perceiving time moving counts as traveling, which was the only which was the thing I ended up putting the old school time machine on instead of that one.
Oh man, I love Planet of the Apes. I've watched all those many times. I don't know. I don't know what
It's
I
kind
do
of
with that
passively
one.
traveling through time.
Yeah.
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 Well, there's plenty of
So
suggestions
many
in the
more,
chat
yeah.
to
No one's bringing up
look
Kate
back on, but
Leopold. No one's
Yeah.
bringing up Shrek 4, okay? Where's Shrek 4?
Is Shrek 4 about time travel? Oh man,
well, thank
the
you.
time traveler's wife.
Thank you for
That's right. The
humoring
apes,
us.
the apes travel back in the old movies.
Yeah.
That's
The
right.
apes travel back?
Yeah.
I don't think
That's
I
how
remember that.
it becomes like that's what causes the Planet of the Apes is them
Ah.
traveling back after the thing.
I think I was like 8 when I saw that movie.
Yeah, it's a gimmick. It's just, but how else can we keep the franchise going
Sure.
after we literally destroyed the world in the second one? It blew the whole thing up, which is a great ending. I love that one.
Is there a movie of A Sound of Thunder? I know I almost put the butterfly effect on here, which they got.
Oh, I've seen that.
They got that kind of idea from A Sound of Thunder.
Yeah, there is a movie. It's awful.
Oh wow, there you go.
That would be way down on the bottom of that list. I think the story's pretty good. The Bradbury story is good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dan, do you have anything else you want to mention? You want to plug? I know you mentioned your Superman book. Do you have anything else you want to mention in the chat before you go? I know it's getting late on Newfoundland.
Ooh, it is. No, not really. I mean, this has been so great. Thank you so much for the invitation. I admit I was a little nervous. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to say anything about any of this stuff, but you're all so fantastic.
I mean, well, Dan, to be honest, you were a name that came up early when we were talking about guests we wanted to interview, only because we knew you would be able to talk about Hades. And we had a great interview with you. So sorry it went a little long, but there were just too many good answers, Dan.
I know.
Thanks.
I'll also say like our pop culture affinity loving chat is like total crossover with your interests and with Hades, and so it was just lots of great questions from the chat. Thank you all.
Yeah, it really is.
Everybody
writing in. Oh man.
Everybody make sure to give Dan a GG in the chat.
Yeah, GG's in the chat.
Yeah,
everybody.
GG's in the chat, everyone. Yeah, and this is why we love working on Twitch, because like Daisy said earlier, you get this emergent folklore. You get the chat being able to write in right away in real time. Add to the interview.
So cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, and we have our deep dive interview sleuths who do this like extra work ahead of time that come up with great questions and really deep questions that you probably don't get asked, and then the chat has all these like follow-up questions, so it's like we during the interview just get to have a cool conversation. So thanks for being with us.
This was enjoyable. I learned a lot. I saw this great game that I might check out, but no, I don't have anything else I really want to talk
2020 Supergiant games.
Yeah. Well, I plugged your book in the chat, and you can. I put your website in there a lot earlier too. If anybody wants to scroll back and check it out, and I maybe put the IMDb for your movie in there too, so people can check that out.
Oh yeah, where's that's on Vimeo. Vimeo? How do you say it? I've never said that out loud before. Yeah.
Vimeo. Yeah.
I don't know how much it costs.
I don't know either, but I put the IMDb for people so they know which one it is if they want to find it. So.
And it was free if you have Prime on Amazon. I don't know if it still is.
Cool.
But it definitely was. So you can get it through Amazon.
Nice.
Yeah, this fit nicely. I'm actually doing all the research. I've decided to sit down and just write the book on mythology I've always wanted to write. And it starts with Greece, right? It starts with the hymn to Demeter and all that good stuff.
Awesome.
So this was fun getting a little bit of the pop culture elements in it.
Yeah.
So thank you.